Welcome back to Movie Synopsis. Today, I'll be elucidating a thriller crime film titled Girls in the Basement. The narrative commences with our main character, Sarah, and her father, Don, hurriedly taking Marie to the hospital due to breathing difficulties. Sarah becomes frantic as Marie ceases to breathe, prompting her to implore Don to drive faster. Upon arrival at the hospital, Don specifically advises Sarah to maintain silence. Within the hospital, paramedics swiftly attend to Marie, administering oxygen in an attempt to save her life. However, the monitor displays a flat heart line. The storyline then transports us 2 decades into the past to a seemingly serene family dinner featuring Sarah, her sister Amy, and their parents, Dawn and Irene. The atmosphere at the table shifts when Sarah's father reveals his authoritarian side, forbidding her from attending a party and asserting his dominance over the family. Undeterred, Sarah secretly slips out later that night with her boyfriend Chris. Upon discovering Sarah's empty room, her parents, particularly her father, label her as a source of trouble. Meanwhile, at the party, Sarah enjoys dancing with Chris, who serenades her with a song crafted exclusively for her. In a moment of shared affection, they declare their love for each other and share a kiss. Sarah returns home the following morning. Dawn anxiously awaits her return throughout the night. Tensions escalate into a confrontation, with Sarah asserting that once she turns 18, she intends to permanently part ways with the family. She confides in her mother and sister about her ambitious plans to traverse the country, working to sustain herself. Unbeknownst to Sarah, her father overhears the discussion and retreats to the basement, disclosing the existence of a hidden room behind a bookshelf. 3 months later, Sarah graduates. In a subsequent conversation with her mom, it comes to light that her father has been increasingly engrossed in spending time in the basement, his designated man cave. As Irene departs the house, Don dupes Sarah into assisting him with carrying a box down to the basement. Seizing the opportunity, he guides her into the concealed room, deceiving her by claiming it's a bomb shelter left behind by the previous owner. Once inside, he locks the door, leaving Sarah in a state of panic, screaming for help. Unfortunately, her cries go unheard as the shelter proves to be soundproof. Growing increasingly concerned about Sarah's absence, her mother contacts the police. On the 4th day of her captivity, Dawn coldly visits her, outlining the grim conditions of her confinement. Henceforth, she must earn every privilege, including access to clean, ventilated air. Before departing, Dawn takes advantage of Sarah. A police officer then arrives at the family's doorstep, suggesting that Sarah has likely embarked on her planned extensive journey across the country. Sarah's mother, skeptical of her sudden disappearance, finds it inconceivable that Sarah would depart without bidding farewell, especially on the eve of her 18th birthday. In solitude and fear, Sarah reflects on the nights she shared with Chris as the days drag on. Chris makes an appearance at the house, only to be misled by Dawn, who falsely claims that after graduating, Sarah eloped with her childhood neighbor, Steve. On the 21st day of her captivity in the basement, Sarah observes her 18th birthday. Her father, in an unsettling gesture, brings her a cake and a red nightgown as gift. When she requests a clock, he cryptically informs her that she must fulfill a task for him before he reciprocates with anything in return. In the aftermath of her defiance, Sarah endures physical abuse at the hands of her captor. Nearly a year into her captivity, it is unveiled that she is pregnant, and the agonizing labor unfolds in isolation, culminating in the birth of a daughter named Marie. Fast forward 4 years, and Sarah finds herself pregnant once more. Don, leading a clandestine double life, maintains a fey aid with his wife Irene and daughter Amy, all the while harboring a dark secret in the basement with Sarah and her daughter, Marie. Despite Irene's persistent concern for Sarah's whereabouts, Don vehemently opposes hiring a private investigator. In a rare moment of leniency, Don gifts a TV to Sarah and Marie as a reward for compliant behavior. As Sarah gives birth to a baby boy named Michael, the harrowing chapters of her life become the material for a bedtime story filled with princesses and night that she shares with her children, turning her grim reality into a tale of resilience and strength. Chris returns to the house, inquiring about Sarah. Amy, unable to bear the burden of secrecy, discloses the truth to him. The revelation of Don's deceit prompts a discussion about his consistently cruel treatment of Sarah. Fueled by concern and fueled by past displays of a volatile temperament, Amy harbors fears that Don may have harmed Sarah, possibly even taken her life. To alleviate the monotony of their captivity, Sarah ingeniously crafts imaginary adventures for her children, offering a temporary escape from their confined reality. Simultaneously, Don's web of lies begins to unravel as Amy and Irene confront him. The confrontation escalates into a heated and tumultuous argument. In a fit of rage, Irene vows to exhaust every resource at her disposal to locate her missing daughter, determined to bring an end to the torment inflicted upon Sarah. Amid their intense argument, Don inadvertently drops his keys on an armchair. Seizing the opportunity, Amy takes the keys and heads to the basement in search of clues. Don discovers her intrusion, retrieves his keys, and engages in a physical altercation with Amy. Filled with anger and fear, Amy holds him responsible for Sarah's disappearance. As time unfolds, Sarah welcomes another baby into the world, a boy she names Thomas. Employing a calm and composed demeanor, Sarah convinces Don to allow the third baby to be brought upstairs. She skillfully persuades him by reasoning that there isn't enough space for another child in the basement, and she lacks the time to care for an additional baby. The infant is discreetly left on the house's porch, destined to be discovered by Irene. Accompanying the abandoned baby is a poignant note, seemingly scribed by Sarah, expressing her desire for the child to be raised by Irene. The note outlines that this is her baby and expresses her earnest wish for Irene to provide a nurturing home for the child. The heartfelt letter elucidates that Sarah, along with her boyfriend, lacks the resources to care for the newborn. A desperate plea for assistance accompanies the baby in the basket. Regrettably, it is Don who stumbles upon the note, leading to another assault on Sarah. As the years pass in captivity, the children, nurtured by their mother's imaginative bedtime stories, develop an extraordinary imagination that expands beyond the confines of their basement. 14 years have elapsed since Sarah's confinement. Marie, now a beautiful young girl, one night experiments with makeup, a small yet significant act of self-expression within the constrained environment. When Don's inappropriate interest in Marie's beauty becomes evident, Sarah pleads with him to spare her daughter from any harm. In retaliation, Don disrupts the power supply, jeopardizing the control over the clean air. As Marie struggles for breath, she shares her worries about never meeting anyone and lacking friends. In the course of the conversation, it becomes evident that Marie remains oblivious to the fact that Don is both her grandfather and father. Thomas, now grown, encounters his grandmother weeping in his mother's bedroom. Irene, grieving the absence of her daughter, speaks to Thomas about the magnificence of Sarah. Simultaneously, in the basement, raindrops start seeping through the ceiling. Sarah ascends and discovers a damp roof. Utilizing a spoon, she begins to dig her way to the surface, where she employs a distress signal in a desperate attempt to communicate her plight. A neighbor observes the distress signal and opts to inform Don rather than investigating the matter. Enraged by this information, Don directs his anger towards Sarah, who is once again pregnant. The brutal assault results in Sarah losing her unborn child, and she weeps in pain over the tragic loss. In the aftermath, a stillborn baby is solemnly laid to rest in the yard by Don. Returning to the basement, Don vents his dissatisfaction, interspersed with praise for Thomas, now a robust athlete. When Marie and Michael inquire about the prospect of venturing into the outside world, Don shifts blame onto Sarah, citing her perceived bad behavior as the cause of their entrapment. Under the relentless pressure of her children's unending questions, Sarah succumbs to a fit of rage, demolishing all their furniture. Exhausted, she collapses to the ground, reflecting on her happiest moments with Chris. Moved by empathy, her children cover her with a blanket and take it upon themselves to restore order to their confined living space. Deeply apologetic, Marie and Michael express remorse to their mother. Touched by their sincerity, Sarah decides that they are now old enough to learn the true story behind their life in captivity. Up until now, they believed that Dawn lived upstairs with their Aunt Irene to help care for Thomas. Exhausted from the web of lies, Sarah opens up about everything, revealing that her life serves as the inspiration for their favorite bedtime story. In a delicate manner, she discloses that Don is not only her father, but also theirs. The revelation hits Marie hard, triggering a severe asthma attack as the painful truth sinks in. Overwhelmed, the children begin to feel that there is something inherently wrong with them. Sarah, however, reassures them, affirming her love and placing the blame solely on Don. A year later, tensions escalate between Don and Michael following a verbal insult directed at Sarah and her appearance, marking another distressing incident in their confined life. The already rationed food supply in the basement dwindles further as Don faces difficulties at work, eventually leading to the loss of his job. Faced with foreclosure, desperation takes a dark turn as Don attempts to suffocate his family in the basement. He connects the car exhaust fumes to the air vent, attempting a dire act. However, his sinister plan is thwarted by Thomas, who unknowingly intervenes, inadvertently saving their lives. In a disturbing twist, while Don and his family enjoy a seemingly carefree barbecue in the yard, Marie falls ill, struggling to breathe. Despite her worsening condition, Don Don callously refuses to take her to the hospital. Sarah pleads desperately for his help, promising to keep silent about everything. Eventually, Don agrees. Fast forward 20 years into captivity, and the film begins with Marie being rushed to the hospital. Sarah, haunted by the memories of their dark past, is profoundly concerned about Marie's life. The anxiety lifts when the doctors successfully save Marie's life, bringing a moment of genuine relief for Sarah. As the nurse inquires about Marie's medical history, she learns that Marie has been homeschooled and treated solely with natural remedies. Sarah, worn and disoriented, slowly scans the hospital for an opportunity to escape. In a desperate bid for freedom, she accidentally spills water on the medical forms, creating a diversion to separate from Don. In the critical moments before Don catches up to her, Sarah manages to reach the nurse, confessing her need for help. A police officer intervenes, initiating a conversation with Don that ultimately leads to his arrest. Sarah breaks the news to Marie, conveying a sense of safety and freedom. The house is soon swarmed with police, who liberate Michael from the basement. Irene and Thomas are confronted with the devastating reality as they witness Michael, deprived of fresh air for so long, gasping for breath. The rescue operation unfolds, bringing an end to the harrowing captivity that has lasted for 2 decades. From the back of the police vehicle, Don witnesses the unfolding scene. Later, on a beautiful summer's day, Marie, Thomas, and Michael revel in play in the countryside, while Sarah, Irene, and Amy watch over them from the porch of the house. Marie spots someone approaching from the driveway. It's Chris, arriving on his motorcycle. Joined by Sarah, they embark on a walk where Chris expresses remorse for not having tried harder to find her and for believing Don's deceitful stories. As a symbol of their past plans, Chris gifts her a pink motorcycle helmet he had purchased when they were 18 and planning a journey. Finally content, they embark on a long-awaited motorcycle ride together. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.